Hi, my name is Yogi Klatt. I'm a gameplay programmer in the vehicle feature team. I'm here with Rich Towler, David Colson, Jed Talbot, and Johnny Young. And today we're gonna talk to you about the upcoming changes to the flight systems and the combat systems, which are done specifically for Squadron 42, but which will eventually find their way to the persistent universe. We want to define ship roles for the game because every role in itself and every ship can offer unique gameplay opportunities for individual players.
We want to provide a lot more variety to the gameplay in Star Citizen, a lot more opportunity for different careers, different responsibilities, and different sort of perspectives and views on gameplay where people contribute different types of work and different types of jobs.
Star Citizen is supposed to be a big expansive game with giving the players lots of chances to have a variety of different experiences. It's not just about combat, it's not just about an economy, it's not just about piracy, it's about all of those things happening at the same time. So we need ships that can act and function in different ways to support all of those different goals.
In trying to figure out these roles and define what they are and make the gameplay for them, we started very heavily leaning toward combat, mostly because combat is a mechanic that is very widely applicable throughout the game, and the principles behind it apply to various other roles in the game.
We've been working away in the S42 branch, and this has really allowed us to isolate these ships. So we've kind of broken it down into archetypes, and it's really allowed us to kind of break down what these ships do. And also it's to make sure that when we are defining these roles and balancing these roles, that we're putting the ships in the right place, because we don't want the ships to be like, you play this ship, it means you dominate this part of the game. That there's always got to be plus and minuses so the balance is right. So there's still some crossover between the ships. So just picking one type of ship just isn't just a win.
We have already defined several ship roles, and they're usually known as light, medium, and heavy fighters. Light fighters for us are fighters which are very dominant in the area of 1 versus 1 PvP combat.
But they come with a downside, because obviously the light, which means the materials chosen on the ship, are probably not the strongest. So it's more about the attack. It's more about trying to outposition and get in there and attack and get out of the situation.
Heavy fighters are kind of the opposite. They're not supposed to be really good at 1 versus 1, but they excel at N versus N engagements. So when we have group battles. Medium fighters for us, internally we call multi-role fighters, because they have a lot of hard points. So they have a lot of loadout flexibility. So a player can tune them to the role whatever they want, but they will never reach the performance of dedicated ships.
A lot of the medium fighters sometimes come with a turret as well, so they've got that additional gameplay of the turret, which is aimed to kind of counter the lack of maneuverability that those ships have.
And then additionally to that, we have racing ships, which are basically just really fast at changing the velocity vectors, and interceptors, which we basically just want to go very fast in the forward area, but never reaching really the performance envelope of dedicated dogfighters.
Interceptors are designed to kind of catch up to ships and disable them. So they come with kind of advanced kind of hardware on these ships.
Bombers, on the other hand, are, they're just slobbing heavy ordnance at larger targets, so you use them to take out bigger ships. But they're not really good at, killing small fighters. And then from smaller ships coming to larger ships like Constellation and up, we want to change the gameplay to be less about positional combat, but more going into the naval style of combat, where it's important to show the correct shield and fire arcs and timing your shots over long distances.
So the purpose of ship roles is to really help players understand what ships should be used and when they should be used. And it's really about delivering on those kind of gameplay promises that we've been talking about over the past kind of several years.
If every ship is the same, it's not fun. But if we have dedicated ships with dedicated pros and cons, then we can create very exciting combat environments. And the biggest challenge we see in order to get that gameplay we want is the current speed that we have in combat.
It's a subject we've talked about many, many times in the past. And it's something we've tried many things with. We've tried limiting things at speed, we've tried adjusting handling at speed, we've tried so many things to kind of manage the negative impact of speed on combat.
When ships are going fast in combat, they usually just end up very far apart, which is not very interesting, and it just devolves into jousting very quickly, which is also not very interesting.
The second you create a longer distance between you and the target, your angular requirements to maneuver to that target are just extremely small. And this is a very obvious math reason why high-speed combat is kind of the opposite of what we want to achieve, meaning meaningful and effective positional maneuvering.
We want the combat to be closer and to be more turn-oriented, so rotations should matter more than just flat speed.
Having very high speeds that are pretty much the same between all ship classes negates a lot of the opportunity for smaller ships to flex different types of gameplay.
Another big issue with the speeds in combat is it's very hard to keep players engaged in the combat because players can move so far so quickly in such a short space of time. It's quite hard to keep a track on your opponent.
So you might think, oh, why don't we just make the ship slower and call it a day? Well, we can't do that.
The main reason we can't just make everything slower is the size of the Star Citizen world. We've got huge planets where we need to go from the planet's surface up into space. We need to transverse between different systems. So essentially, we can't have just low speeds all of the time.
There's a massive universe out there to explore. There's planets to explore. And the feelings we want to capture with the speed, we still want an element of danger that you can still go too fast in lots of situations.
We have tried an awful lot over the past few years with what are called soft speed caps, where there is no speed cap on ships, but we encourage gameplay to occur at a lower speed. But it doesn't really work because the advantages of flying fast in terms of defense is just better.
So since the last year, the focus of Vehicle Feature Team shifted very heavily towards Squadron 42 and nailing down the flight and space combat experience for it. And I'm very proud to say that we finally found a really good working solution that we're going to show today. So the main idea is to simply not have combat and long-range travel at the same time. So we're splitting these gameplay experiences. This will be done by a thing which is called master modes. A master mode is a thing that is globally applied to your ship. And we have two of them. We have SCM, which is now relabeled as standard control mode, and QCM or QM for quantum mode.
The idea is that between these two modes, we can constrain the speeds in combat and also get all of the maneuvering, like high speed maneuvering and traversal mechanics that we had before, but in these distinct modes that are integrated with lore and integrated with the ship functions, such that there's costs and payoffs for being in each of the two modes.
So let's start with standard control mode and what this means. So this is the mode that we intend to be the functional mode of the ship, whether it's combat or mining or any of these kind of core kind of things the ship does. We want the player to do these things in this mode. And what this does is it reduces the speed of the ship, but it also enables the shield to be turned on. And obviously the intent behind this is where you do your combat. It's where the guns are on, the missiles can be armed and fired, and all the kind of operational things a ship does operates within this mode.
The speeds that you can reach in SCM are somewhat limited, somewhere between 200 and 300 meters per second, tuning pending. But this is basically the hard cap, which you cannot not really exceed. You can slightly exceed this by using boost, but you cannot maintain any velocity beyond that SCM limit for a longer period of time.
So we're thinking of this as some kind of energy management system, so you can go a little bit faster with a little bit more accelerations when you need to, but you know that it is a limited resource and you should use it carefully.
Specifically, the boost space is interesting for space combat because that boost space is not spheric as it was before. You can boost the fastest if you're going forward on a straight line, and you have a lot of debuffs when you're trying to boost backwards. That alone gets us a lot of interesting maneuvering space and variation in the day-to-day dogfight maneuvering, so to speak.
Importantly, you don't have your quantum drive available in this mode. The idea is that quantum is restrained to the quantum traversal mode.
The second mode is quantum control mode, or QCM or QM. What this mode does is it unlocks your maximum velocity that your ship can reach. So when you were limited before to 200 to 300 meters per second, now you can go to 1200, 1400 meters per second, whatever your ship allows you.
During the development of the quantum mode, we realized we needed something that was a little bit more kind of about traveling large distances, but not at the distances that you need to, speed up your quantum drive and travel across the universe. So we've created this feature called Quantum Boost, which is available in the quantum mode, and you can access it at any point. So at any point you want to kind of boost towards your location that you're kind of looking at, but it's just too far away. And this boost is available for a limited amount of time, and it's purely on a straight line.
Just to give you like a ballpark, quantum boost will allow you to go to a target fast if it's within, let's say, 50,000 kilometers, whereas you will use quantum travel to do very long range jumps between planets. So quantum mode allows you to go very, very fast with up to like 1200, 1400 meters per second when you want to zip really fast over a planet. It also allows you to do quantum boost to quickly go between points of interest, which are rather close to you. And it allows you to travel long distances between planets and large-scale stellar objects. But it comes at a cost. Your capacitor systems are non-functional because they interfere with the quantum bubble that is allowing you to go fast. You won't have shields. Your shields will collapse right away when you swap into quantum mode. Your weapons will stop working because anything that's firing outwards of your ship will disintegrate the quantum bubble. Your countermeasures won't work, and you will also not be able to use thruster boost. So basically all your capacitor and combat related systems are turned off instantly.
When you switch between modes, there'll be a little period of time where everything has to spool up and change. So you will lose your shields during this, you won't have your weapons during this, but you also won't be going fast. So there's a risk-reward element when you need to switch modes.
So it's going to be a very kind of conscious choice of what mode you should be in at any particular point. So if you feel under threat of someone that's close by, you're not quite sure what their intention is, maybe switch to standard control mode and be safe. Or you can switch into quantum mode and escape. And this is going to kind of bring in an element of danger and an element of risk.
Because going into the two different modes is like a systemic thing within the ship's items, we actually have the opportunity now to define ship roles that can block people from escaping, either using devices that suppress the quantum bubble or devices that can effectively interfere with your ability to transfer between the modes. For example, specific ships like interceptors can be tuned such that they have a higher standard control mode speed, so they're able to catch up with people. Or, for example, make the swap between the modes faster and more efficiently so that they could catch up with you, go into standard control mode and attack you more effectively as per the properties of their ship versus another ship which might not be as good at doing something like that.
It's something that's fundamentally changed the gameplay experience for us. And this is working now, and we're playing it every day in the studio, we're refining it, we're tweaking bits here and there. But we're at that stage now where we're tweaking and balancing. And we've got the core features, it's there in the game playable. And the difference it's made on the game for us is it's basically night and day.
Because the speeds have been limited in standard control mode, suddenly fights are a lot closer. The accelerations of ships similarly have been retuned a little bit, and their afterburner strength has been retuned a little bit to make it so that you can orbit around ships and have a lot more interesting maneuvering. And because the ranges are closer, maneuvers that would be performed by your ship have a much more significant impact because you're closer. So if I thrust up or down, you'll immediately see the difference. So similarly, things like capital ships effectively get a buff to their offensive capabilities with this change, because suddenly you can't orbit a capital ship at high range and high speeds. You have to get a lot closer, which will make the turrets much more effective at shooting you. Turrets become more important, and working as a group to attack capital ships is more important than it has been before.
This is a really exciting change because it allows us to keep the combat speeds relatively low, where we know that the gameplay is better for that, while also keeping the point-to-point travel speeds as high as they should be for PU.
Playing with master modes in Squadron 42 has been a lot of fun, simply because it's changed the entire combat experience. Before, you'd find that you were fighting at a huge distance. Now you find that you're in really tight, close combat with the other players. I think the biggest part of this is going to be when we have the larger ships interacting with the smaller ships. Once we can have battles with big capital ships and smaller ships, we'll have brought something to the Star Citizen world that I don't think has been has come out before, and I think it'll make a massive improvement to the game.
Having made these changes to implement master modes and rebalancing all of the ship speeds, we'll finally be able to define ship roles in the way that we've always wanted and to bring a lot more variety to the gameplay that we haven't had before.
So it's been a really long journey here, obviously, because you've been a part of this journey. And we've tried many, many different things over the time to try and really create the experience we want. But the reality is, from us, it came down to what it always does in Star Citizen, which is creating choice for the players. It's about giving players the option, and their choices have consequences. So with master modes, it really helps define the player choice in the game. So they're choosing to do combat, they're choosing to travel from A to B in quantum, they're choosing to QT boost somewhere. Just giving players that freedom within the universe we have is just it's a really magical thing, and we try many times to control that as designers, to try and get a specific experience at some point, but we always end up coming back to the fact, let's just give the players the choice and let them make the key decisions, and we'll design the balance around that.
We finally have it. So we're now nailing down the space combat experience for Star Citizen, specifically for Squadron 42. We know from internal playtest that the master mode stuff works. We know that it works with our flight retunings, and it's very exciting. It will yet take a while to ship this to the PU because the amount of ships you fly in Squadron 42 is rather limited, whereas in Star Citizen we have about, more than 100 ship records at the moment. But the whole hard problem of designing this thing in the first place is over. We just need to get the numbers in now.
And all the footage you've seen today is from Squadron. It's all currently playable in the game. That internally, we're playing this every day. We're still making some tweaks, but everything is there right now. It's all about the foundational kind of tweaks that we're making, and we can't wait to get it in your hands.
So thanks a lot for listening to us today. We're very, very excited to get the changes to you as soon as possible. And we'll hope to see you fighting in the verse.
I like that. So there's a mode system now. It'll make things much easier to fight, play, be able to choose when you want to do a certain mode for the flight mechanics in combat or out of combat. So that'll be really interesting to see. I haven't played in a bit, like Star Citizen, and I am looking forward to Squadron 42 and the future expansion of Star Citizen. So let's get to it. Let's see what else is there. Oh yeah, there is another one. I'm interested in this, on how they change the entire scope of Lorville. So let's look at this.
Hello, my name's Ian Leyland and I'm the art director for Star Citizen, and today we're going to talk about an internal initiative called Lorville 2.0. Now with Lorville, and specifically the Lorville cityscape, it was probably the first major landing zone we'd ever had to do. It was the first time we put a landing zone on a planet, and we had the player fly there with minimal restrictions, although it did have that really big no-fly zone. But when we did subsequent landing zones, we built up a bit more of a knowledge base and experience base about how we can effectively introduce cityscapes. So Area 18, New Babbage, Horizon, we all developed more techniques, and we always wanted to go back internally and put that knowledge back into Lorville. To start us off, I'll throw it over to Eric, our principal concept artist, and he can show you some more.
Hi, my name is Eric Gagnon. I'm a principal concept artist for Star Citizen and Turbulent in Montreal, and I'm here to talking about the Lorville 2.0. When I started to work on the concept, initially what I did is to create a variety of sketches, black and white sketches of a different approach of that city. We create a side panel of a silhouette of the building. Mainly the reason we need to work on that is for mainly gameplay issues, because we would like to make a gameplay in the interior buildings, and we need to create a bigger city to let the player have a fun experience to flying through that. Yeah, so after the sketching process and get some approval, I need to know very well the footprint of that city. We build a city from a human scale, you know. We have nothing in that city, they build in a gray zone. So everything is built from that unit, and it's built from the unit of the CBD. So this is mainly the two main units I used to build a city. So we have a kind of a proportion in terms of lengths and distances to respect. So this is why I used the 3D basis to working on that. So I need to make sure that the ratio of everything fits well to approach closely as possible. So mainly the goal is not to dig right away on the details, but it's to stay on the big picture and to see if the skyline makes sense. So this is a good challenge to play with that, and I think I did a nice job on that, because at the end, what the feeling we have, it's like a real city. So I use my my 2D background in concept artist to make the best as possible concept art with all the techniques inside of it, 3D, paint over, sketching, painting, and at the end, I was needed to create a very speechless concept to sell the mandate to the people involved in that, and they make sure they believe on that project, and they could say, well, okay, now we are a Lorville 2.0 and we're ready to moving on that.
Thanks, Eric. There's some beautiful image there, and we had a lot of fun internally developing that cityscape. Now, we're not just in concept development. We've actually just passed our white box milestone internally, so we're going to jump over to Max, and he's going to show you where we're at.
Bonjour, mon nom est Maxime Guindon. Je suis chef environnement artiste sur le projet Star Citizen. Mon mandat en ce moment est Lorville 2.0. Premièrement, je voudrais dire bonjour à la communauté francophone de Star Citizen, à toute la communauté en fait. Ce que vous faites, ce que vous partagez m'inspire énormément dans mon travail. From the concepts done, it was time to start it in engine, and we've had to evaluate what was possible to do and to extend or to make it much bigger than the initial Lorville city, up to something that matches the ambition. For instance, we are keeping the L19 area, we are keeping the CBD, we're keeping the spaceport, and we're building upon this and just extending the city. We've done several tests with the transit system, the rails, and we try to extend it out a bit. We're keeping the same number of gates, but we're moving them out. And so throughout these tests, we've built the city as just placeholder, white box, very primitive, to have this layout, this fast iteration of the whole city done, and then that we could see it and get feedback on it. So it will feel more like a believable city. We hope it to be fun to fly around and like to actually do some races in it. We're building arches, bridges, and like underpasses, and it makes it interesting to be able to fly around. We see the community of players, they're doing like emergent gameplay of races, and that inspires us. And then the way that we're building the city. We are starting now the gray box. We have like Montreal's tools teams now that are working on like Houdini tools, and we're chatting with them, see what we could could use from the library of tools. There will be several areas of like a higher level of detail, especially around landing pads on rooftops and lookout areas. And these are the places where the players will be able to land. These will eventually connect to the interior spaces that will be built later. And in that sense, Lorville will be ready for those interiors. We started as a team of 2 artists working on Lorville, and now we're 5. And we could even be like more soon. Each artist has slightly different skill sets, and we complete each other. They bring ideas. I let them bring ideas to the table on how to advance what we're doing, make it kick-ass. So that's really important. So I hope you'll like what you see, and we can't wait to show you more. I'm happy about the opportunity of working on this mandate, because it's gonna make such a huge difference.
Thanks, Max. That's looking great. And hopefully you guys can kind of see, even in a white boxing format, we're seeing really good scale reads and understanding about how we can make the cityscape of Lorville probably one of our best yet. And we'll be showing more soon. Thanks for letting us showcase that for you today. Enjoy the rest of the show.
Repeatedly. We got some concept art from the concept art team, and the way that they visualized these solar flare hits was like glowing marks and streaks all over the planet.
Well then, that was interesting. So they're redoing, well, not redoing, but most likely, I guess, enhancing Lorville to make it far better than what it is currently. More realistic, I guess. Easier to go around and everything as well. So, can't wait for that. And then obviously, if you want to watch anything else, we have a bunch of videos on CitizenCon. And we also have as well the IAE coming up this Friday. So stay tuned for that. Make sure to, you know, like the video if you want to. Also, consider subscribing as well down below to the channel, so then you could be notified also whenever we post new content. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be posting more content, different kind of games and stuff like that as well on the channel, so stay tuned for that. As we have also some gameplay of CitizenCon last year, and just go, I guess it's, yeah, it's under 2951, and we have that content as well. So there's new ships coming. I think the Cutter and the Galaxy and a few other things too, like the Steve Unless the Steve is already in game, not sure. I've got to double check. But there's a bunch of other unique looking things that are going to be coming up in 3.18, and apparently the first stages of DirectX 12 is going to be implemented into well, it's the API, so then people can have better frames, and it'll make it easier on the PC. But it's the first stages, so who knows if you're going to get an uplift or not. But I'm sure over time, by the end of next year, we'll see some massive gains, I'm sure. So thank you for watching. Yeah, just consider subscribing. It'll make it a lot easier for the channel, so then we could put new content daily and weekly for you all. And make sure to comment below as well. Let me know what ships, what planets you like, what star systems you would like to see. Do you like Squadron 42? So thank you for watching. Until next time, everyone. I will be posting again on the 17th, a day before the IAE, and I'll also be doing coverage of the IAE as well. So thank you for watching. Have a great day. Until next time.